Hey, what's up, guys? This is JT, and welcome back to the Let's Grow podcast. Whether you're listening in for the very first time or if you are a dedicated listener, that sounds pretty good, doesn't it? If you are a dedicated listener, then thank you so much for choosing to invest some time with me and this podcast. Today is a solo episode. Of course, we've sometimes we have special guests on and we chop it up, have some great conversations that you guys can learn from their story, their experience, their successes, their failures. But today is a little bit more of a teaching podcast session. Sometimes I drop a little bit of inspiration in hopes that it can encourage you throughout your day or wherever you find yourself at. But today we're talking a little bit about networking and cultivating relationships. But before we do that, wherever you find your podcast, here's my ask of you today. Could you do me a favor and leave a review wherever you listen to podcast at? Of course, that allows more listeners, that allows this podcast, this content to get in front of more listeners. If you feel like it adds value to you, then I would appreciate your blessing on helping me potentially add value to more people. So leave a review. I would appreciate that. Of course, you can find this on Anchor, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast, or if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, by all means on YouTube, click subscribe. That way you can be the first to be notified when some new content drops. So now that we have that out of the way, thank you so much for the opportunity to chat with you for a few minutes today as we work to close down 2020. When I step into November, when I step into this time of year, holiday season, I begin to reflect. I consciously, I've kind of set up this flow throughout my year where at this time of year, as I'm working to close down business for the year and I think about working on new business for the coming year, I try to pause. I try to spend some time to read, rest, reflect, recharge, all those R words, if you will. And in the course of that time, I try to think about, what's gone well, what hasn't gone well, mentally, spiritually, relationally, business wise, right? Like, what are some things that I need to continue doing? What are some things that I need to stop doing? Maybe you've heard me talk about some of those questions before, but here lately, I've been thinking a lot about relationships. And obviously the pandemic has impacted us all in a number of different ways. And especially for me in my business, I've touched on this a little bit before, but with my business of public speaking and teaching and coaching and training and being in front of groups of people, just like for many of you, I've had to pivot. I've had to shift, right? And, there was a small time, through the course of this year that I thought, man, I don't know how this is going to pan out. Like, I don't really know how we're going to make this pivot or how this is going to continue to work. And then something crazy happened. And more business started coming in than I could have ever thought possible based on the current set of circumstances, right? I started getting requests on the website. I started getting requests on Facebook. I started getting text messages and emails and phone calls of people asking, not to say that I was the most sought after guy when it comes to talking to their team or their organization. I don't mean by that by any means. What I mean is that I realized that the more things change, the more things stay the same, right? Now, granted, change is a part of growth, and the only constant thing is change. But based on the work that I do and the opportunity to love on people in this unique way that God has given me a chance to do so through my work, I realized people probably needed more encouragement this year than they ever have in times past. And so being able to virtually continue to do so, was a blessing, needless to say. Being able to continue working and working exclusively from home for a short period of time. Now, I work from a home office as is. But that being said, the reason I started to realize the reason why some of that business was still coming in, even whenever things didn't look the way that I thought they were going to look. And the financial forecast of the year, I thought, wow, I don't know how this is going to pan out, is because of this one factor. And that's what I want to talk to you guys about today is relationships. I have a keynote that I share with organizations and I, share at conferences, and it's called "We Are All in the People Business." And I remember whenever I left teaching and coaching back in 2012, my last message that I shared with my students was, if you get good at one thing, regardless of what you want to do with your life, what your dreams, what your hopes, what your aspirations are, if you get good at one thing in this life, get good at adding value to people. Now, that's a vague statement because they were like, what do you mean by adding value to people? What I mean is begin to get intentional about loving, serving, and caring for people, right? Because relationships drive this existence. Relationships will drive success later on down the road. No matter where you're at, no matter what you do, no matter where you come from, what your name is, how much money you make, where you live at, right? We are all in the people business. And I told them that they better get good at building relationships, right? And adding value to people because that ultimately would drive their success later on. Now, granted, you still have to have skills to be in certain professions. You still have to, have certain prerequisites in order to fulfill particular positions and do certain things in the workforce. But soft skills will take you a really long way. And I like to call them interpersonal skills that allow you to add more value in the respective spaces that you're in, right? No matter where you work at, having a great attitude, being a good team player, being a problem solver, right? A multitude of things. But when I got to thinking about that, and here's where I'm bringing this around today on a few things that I want to share that I think can help anybody cultivate better relationships. Because the reason why I got to thinking about this is I had a couple of speaking requests come in that it was clear that was exclusively because of some relationships that I'd built, relationships that I'd cultivated, and some networking that I'd done, and staying in touch with those people since I'd met them, right? Them staying in touch with me staying in touch with them, building that KLT, what we call know, like, and trust, so that people want to do business with you, people want to work with you. And so I want to share this quote here from John C. Maxwell that I found on Twitter not long ago, and then I'll share a few things that I think can help anyone, I think, cultivate better relationships, so that in turn it serves you well as it relates to the work that you do, or the dreams, hopes, aspirations that you have. And John C. Maxwell said, "I believe long-term success is unachievable without good people skills." I believe long-term success is unachievable without good people skills. I had a speaking engagement actually this morning, worked with a group in the town that I live in, a 2-hour session. And one of the things we closed down with is that with the opportunity to do great work comes with it the responsibility of taking good care of people in the process. In other words, no matter what we do, we are all in the people business. And I believe, just like what John Maxwell believes, that long-term success, you just can't have it. You can't achieve it. You can't sustain it without good people skills, right? Without relationships. And so here's a few things that I hope in the short time that this, that we're going to be together on this podcast, I hope encourages you, hope you implement maybe a new skill, maybe work on something that you haven't worked on before. And here's the first thing that I think when it comes to networking is approaching networking and approaching building relationships with this baseline mindset, attitude, and truth that it's not about you. That's the most important thing. It's not about you. Most people are tuned into the same radio station. I heard this many years ago, and they said that radio station is WIIFM. That's pretty good, right? WIIFM, and that stands for What's in It for Me, right? Most people are just looking out for what they can get versus what they can give. But I'm telling you, the winners, the leaders, right? The people who make a difference, the people that stand out, the folks are people who are more concerned about what they can give versus what they can get. Someone once told me that you learn more from listening and you gain more from giving, right? So think about that. When it comes to relationships, cultivating relationships, that's the very foundation, is focus more on what you can give versus what you can get. It's not about you, right? It's about others. That's the name of the game. The second thing that I want to touch on here is I believe one of the most admirable things that anyone can do to cultivate relationships is be a man or woman of your word. Now, at the end of the day, that just simply means having integrity, right? Having integrity, having character, being someone who's consistent, who's reliable, who shows up, who does what they say they're going to do. And listen, we've all dropped the ball on that to some degree. I know I have, right? I'm not the only person who said they were going to do something and then they didn't do it, or make a promise and didn't keep that promise. So at the end of the day, in order to stand out, right? In order to be the difference, right? In order to be someone that people look at and say, man, there's something special about them. Cultivating relationships. If you want to win in life, you want to win in business, be a person of your word, right? Keep your word. Do what you say you're going to do. And sometimes that means it may cost you more than what you're willing to pay. It may take you longer than what you expected it to take you. And you may have to do some things that maybe you didn't expect to do originally, but keep your word. I realize that there has been some successes and some blessings that's come my way in business because I have strived to be that kind of person. But that doesn't mean that I'm perfect, right? I have fallen short like anyone else in that department. I haven't always kept my word, but I strive to do that, right? The next thing is this. And these are all practical. This is practical stuff. This isn't, mind blowing stuff, change your life, right? Change the game type deal, new wave relationship building, right? New era type stuff. This is stuff that the consistencies of building relationships, which in the world that we're living in now, because we're losing connection with one another because of technology, because of all the distractions, because of all the division, it's becoming consistent that people aren't cultivating relationships with folks the way they once were. And so by doing these things, you're going to stand out, right? You're going to be different from the average person. And here's one big kicker here. We talked about the mindset. We talked about keeping your word, approach, keeping your word, being someone of integrity. The next thing here is this: don't gossip, right? Crazy idea here, but don't gossip. If you want to be someone that folks look to and say, I want to do business with them, I want to connect myself with them, I think they can help me get to where I want to go, right? I want to bring them along for my ride as well. Like, if you want to be the kind of person that people are saying that about, then be this kind of person, a person who doesn't gossip. You're not always talking about people. You're not always complaining about things not going your way. You're not always talking about who did this, who said what, what's going on across town, right? You mind your own business and you take care of your business. Don't gossip. I mean, if you're around people, if there's folks in your circle who are gossiping all the time and they're bad mouthing other people, then what do you think they may be saying about you when you're not around, right? That's obviously a possibility, right? And the same could be said for you if you're the person that's initiating the gossip. So steer clear of those conversations, right? I read a book a long time ago called How to Win Friends and Influence People, right? A game-changing book for me because at the age that I read it at, I was stinking it up, kind of fumbling through life, thought I knew what I was doing, but not really, right? Spinning my wheels financially, going nowhere fast, kind of resentful and bitter about the fact that maybe some things didn't go my way. And all that to be said, I remember reading that book and it transformed the way that I began to look at people, right? How to win friends and influence people, how to build better relationships, how to love, serve, and care for people, how to stand out, right, amongst other people, right? How to help other people feel important, how to let people know that you see them, you hear them, you care about them. And that began to shift the way that I looked at things. And I realized that, man, if I wanted to be someone that people trusted, someone liked, someone that people want to do business with, guess what? I had to make sure that I wasn't always talking about people because that's what average people do. They always talk about people. And then two other quick things before we work to close down is this, is, asking questions is a really big deal, right? Asking questions is a really big deal. When you ask questions, you gather intel. And whenever you ask questions, when you carry a conversation longer than 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and people begin to go a little bit deeper than, what's going on that day or what the weather's like, or, complaining about something, financially or relationally or health-wise, right? When you go a little bit deeper than that, typically you'll find out, through the course of a conversation, someone will tell you how you can help them, right? Someone will give you some intel on how you can keep in touch with them, and something that maybe you can pray about with them or for them, or something that you can shoot them a phone call the next week and follow up and check in on how that's going, right? ask questions if you want to build better relationships. You want to cultivate more relationships, because when you ask and you listen, people will tell you, right, what's on their mind, what's on their heart, how you can better serve them. So be a better question asker. And obviously we can't break that down. There's some skills and techniques that I've learned along the way. But at the end of the day, just kind of get in the frame of mind of, if I want to build better relationships, you know what, I should do a little bit more listening than I do talking. And that's hard for me at times. I know it's probably hard for you to believe. I love to talk, right? That's what I get paid to do. But as a leader, right, and as a genuine person, I realize that hearing is a gift, but listening is a skill. And we have to work on cultivating that skill. And when you cultivate that skill, it'll help you better cultivate relationships as well. And then the last point here is pray specifically for people, right? If there's opportunities that you're looking for, if there's people that you want to help, right? As you're building relationships with people, and they come to mind, if you have enough time to, have a conversation about something, or you have enough time to watch a TV show, you have enough time to scroll through Facebook, then I'm talking to myself right now too. We have enough time to pray for people. We have enough time to pray about that situation maybe they told us about. We have enough time to, pray for an institution or an organization or the betterment of the people around us. And so when it comes to cultivating relationships, I would encourage you to think about, what's your approach? Are you looking to get something, or are you looking to give something? Because the more you give, really good chance that people notice that and they remember that later on down the road. Keep your word when you say you're going to do something, right? When you say you're going to show up, when you say you're going to help someone with something, when you say you're going to work on a project, right? And you commit to it, keep your word. Cut out gossip, right? Ain't nobody got time for negativity. There's enough negativity taking place in the world. Ain't nobody got time for negativity. Don't be talking bad about people. That is a surefire way to push people away from you. And then ask questions and pray for people in the process. Something I do every Friday, I call it giving you guys a little secret here, a little tip here. I call it my Friday 5. And every Friday I think through, are there people that I didn't touch base with that maybe I could have or I should have? Are there people I need to follow up with, right? And at that time, I make a small touch. And it could be either I drop a handwritten note in the mail for them, right? Because trust me when I tell you, handwritten notes, they never go out of style. The fact that you took enough time to pull out a pen and pad, or go grab a card and write down a kind thought or an encouraging word, right? Or just let them know that you're praying for them and drop that in the mail. That's a big deal, because guess what? Most people don't do that today, right? So whether it's a handwritten note, whether it's a text message, whether it's a Facebook message, whether it's a phone call, an email, I just try to think through, okay, who are 5 people in my life? It could be family, it could be friends, it could be potential clients, it could be a team or an organization that I'm currently working with, right? But every Friday I commit to closing the week strong. And that's part of how I close the week on a positive note, is knowing that going into that day, I'm going to make 5 touches with people just to let them know they're on my mind, right? That I'm thinking about them. How can I help them? How can I follow up and take better care of them? What can I do to serve them? Right. And so that's a tip that maybe serves you well. That's something that maybe you can implement in your organization. Something that you guys can duplicate as you think about, organizations that you lead, people that you're in touch with. Friday 5, going into Friday, who are 5 people that I can reach out and touch and let them know that you're thinking of them. I'm recording this right before Thanksgiving, so I know sometimes people want content to be a little timeless, but I don't care about this episode being timeless. I want you to know that I'm thinking of you, that I appreciate you, giving me some of your time. When you give people your time, you give them a piece of your life. And I always hope the piece of your life that you give me, this podcast, any video that you watch or post that you spend time engaging with of mine on social media, or if I've met you at a conference, or you've purchased a t-shirt or anything, you've brought me into your organization to work with your people. I appreciate you. I'm thankful for you. This has been a crazy year, and I want you to know that I love you. I appreciate you. I'm proud of you. and I believe in you. But as we close down, I'm going to encourage you, like I encouraged a lot of elementary students I've had an opportunity to pop in on in their virtual learning experiences this year because of the pandemic. And I've shared 3 things with them in every message that I've shared with elementary students. And I told them to keep working hard, continue to be kind, and continue to have fun. And that's my message for you as you close down 2020, right? Keep doing what you can with what you have where you're at. Just make the most of it. Keep working hard. Keep bringing your best attitude. Keep bringing your best effort, right? The people that you love most, they deserve that, right? You deserve your best effort. Keep working hard, right? I know some things haven't gone your way. I know this has been an interesting year, and we all have frustrations in our life, but keep working hard, my friend. Continue to be kind. At the end of the day, relationships is the foundation of our success, and we can't win long-term. We can't have long-term success if we don't win relationally. So continue to be kind, right? Continue to be kind. And lastly, have fun while you're doing it. Find something to laugh about. Continue to have a good time with your people. You know, as I think about relationally, I got to share this with you in closing, something I'm grateful for that just happened. Back in February, it sounds like forever ago now, but back in February, I flew to Disney with my wife, who is a cheerleading coach with the local school where we live at. And we flew there for cheer nationals. And Miles was getting ready to turn 2 at the time. His birthday is in late February. And so I thought to myself, wow, pretty cool birthday present being able to fly to Disney for your 2nd birthday, right? I'd never done that growing up. And so it was a cool experience for sure. But while we were in the airport, in the security line in Louisville, Kentucky, there was a gentleman who was also heading out from Louisville Airport, who was standing right next to us. He was heading back to Winston-Salem, North Carolina. He had flown in for a business deal and working through some possibilities with the work that he did. And he struck up a conversation with us because he was intrigued by Miles and how well behaved Miles was, standing in line, and how content he seemed to be. And I appreciate, the compliments that he shared with us that day. But he was talking about how he had a child and was just asking about Miles's development, how old he is, whatnot. And he shared a little bit about why he was in town, and he passed his business card, and we ended up connecting on LinkedIn. All right. Ended up connecting on LinkedIn. 1 or 2 messages. That's it. But here's what I mean by relationships, cutting out gossip, keeping your word, doing the best you can, just trusting the process, trying to be the best version of yourself. As people are paying attention to that, right? When it comes to networking and building, cultivating, people are paying attention to who you are, what you're saying, where you're going, how you're treating people, right? Remember that, because a couple of weeks ago, that kind gentleman dropped a speaking request form, filled out a speaking request form on my website, asking if I would be willing to work with him and his new team of leaders in Winston-Salem on a 2-part deal, potentially right now just virtually based on the situation, but then flying into New York in mid 2021 to work hands-on with their leaders for some training and whatnot, all because of us staying in touch a little bit and him paying close attention to the work that I did. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the fact that God has given me a spirit of encouragement and continuing to work hard and just try to stay focused on the right things, although I don't always get it right. But I wanted to share that story with you in closing, because I want you to know that you never know when you're going to make an impression on someone. You never know who's paying attention to you. You never know when that next win, where that next win is going to come from. You never know who that next business partner or that next acquisition, where it may come from. So networking, cultivating relationships, trying to be the best version of yourself, trying to do right by people, listen, they all go a long way. And I hope these tips have served you well today. This is the Let's Grow podcast. Remember, subscribe on YouTube if you're watching there, or do me a favor and drop a review on any platform that you listen to. I would appreciate that dearly. Until next time, continued success. God bless. Remember, don't just go through life, grow through life, and everybody can encourage somebody. I will see you guys next time, and happy holidays. Specifically, happy Thanksgiving.